Wokeness is the antithesis of objective moral good. It's an ideology that fundamentally cannot allow anything that predates it to be usable, right, good, or anything like that. Because that goes against what it fundamentally believes. And the most fundamental belief of wokeness is that anything that predates it is not enlightened, that wokeness itself is an enlightened way of existence that can do no wrong because everything before it was wrong. And that's why a lot of people do hate the Oblivion remaster and its success because it's something old that proves that the modern day new is not always good.
200,000 players. That is the total peak player count on Steam that Oblivion Remastered surpassed this weekend. It was also announced by Bethesda that more than 4 million people had played this remaster already. A massive success story that
Assassin's Creed Shadows, Assassin's Creed Shadow, yeah. Do you believe that BS? No, you shouldn't because it's lies.
would not have been possible had Bethesda and external developer Virtuous not leaned into the identity of Oblivion by including all of its good and bad features. They brought the improvements in the areas that mattered most, while leaving
Yeah, thankfully they added body type A and body type B. By the way, someone commented this. Uh, Fallout whatever, find a water chip. Fallout whatever, find a geek. Fallout whatever, find your dad. Fallout whatever, find your family. The next Fallout is gonna be find body type B. It's gonna be great, boys. It's gonna be amazing.
alone a lot of the iconic jank. Still though, there has been some infighting over a few notable changes, such as the original colorful lighting, as well as male and female character creator options to body type 1 and body type 2, which doesn't really make sense in a game in which there is gender-specific dialogue. Now, with this being a Bethesda game, many look to the obvious answer to solve these issues: mods. Well,
oh no, it's Thomas the Tank Engine.
Nexus Mods was all about endorsing the game's reshade mod to make it look like the Oblivion we all knew and loved. They were very much against making its character creator options to how it used to be. The reasoning simply comes down to politics. Want to romance Judy as a male in Cyberpunk 2077? That's banned. Romance Panam as a female in Cyberpunk 2077? Go for it. The hypocrisy and lack of consistency on that website has been prevalent for years, and finally they did budge. They changed their policy after intense backlash, with originally them taking down the Oblivion body type selector mod, a website full of graphic adult content mods, and a simple text change not being allowed. It's just dumb, it's stupid. And yes, while it isn't the end of the world, it's also a case of if it's not that big of a deal, then why ban it? Fortunately, they changed course. The mod is now one of the top downloaded ones on the website right now, and my god, there's
Makes sense. No one likes modern day BS. No one likes modern day wokeisms.
been a meltdown from games media.
The audience is roughly what? 4 people. The 5 minutes just passed. Statistics took its toll. Well, 4 people. That's your modern audience. Good luck with that.
Over this. Multiple articles going after the decision, declaring it as being insulting for changing a needed inclusive design choice. We even saw.
Wait, what the hell is this article? Is Oblivion Remastered too woke? Right-wing gamers are trying to mod out this feature. Jesus. Good. Keep doing it.
Declaring it as being insulting for changing a needed
Isn't Vice dead also? Jesus.
inclusive design choice. We even saw PC Gamer running with a hit piece stating, justifying the change as restoring the game to its original state doesn't hold water either. Since we're on the topic, you're literally playing a remaster, literally a changed, updated version of an old game, and the move to body types is minute next to the revamped
No one gives a shit about your opinion, PC Gamer.
graphics, level
Go write another article how Diablo 4 is the best hack and slash out there.
system, voice acting, so minute that they're having a meltdown and advocating for the banning of a mod. PC Gamer continues stating, the bottom line is that Nexus mod seemingly recognizes that this body type selector mod exists as a dog whistle for phobes, but doesn't seem to care as long as the mod author doesn't explicitly say so. That is the perspective of one of the biggest remaining gaming websites, but this isn't actually what what I wanted to talk about today. Because while I take issues with that article and its framing, I have a much bigger issue with an article also from PC Gamer that goes after Bethesda and the Oblivion Remaster for including its iconic soundtrack. They specifically make the argument that this remaster is tainted because of composer Jeremy Soule. It's a frankly disgusting, vile piece that needs to be deconstructed and shamed.
Oh yeah, people were talking about this. Someone looked into it and said it's literally just a rando allegation. Nothing.
Now, PC Gamer, they write, by choosing not to replace Oblivion Remastered soundtrack, Bethesda made the allegations against composer Jeremy Soule everyone else's problem. Oblivion soundtrack is a core part of its identity, but it's also tainted by association.
Oh boy.
Thank you, PC Gamer, in an article that has the comments off for obvious reasons. Now, the problem I have with this piece just to begin with is the framing of the fact that allegations
These gaming shill websites cannot do a good enough job to die faster. And then it should be all the shill channels.
that were made 60 years
You
ago
know
that were
who
never tried in a
I'm
court of law,
talking about.
they're being treated as if this individual was found guilty. Never happened. No investigations at all were ever conducted, and this was coming around the time the Me Too movement. We've already seen other incidents like this happening in the video game industry, in which another core developer that
That's that's not exactly my dryad, but at least I don't need a fire protection potion, you know what I mean?
in which another core developer that worked on Bethesda franchise, Chris Avallone, he had some really heinous allegations that were made against him. He ended up going full scorched earth against them, and there was already mountains of evidence that disproved the allegations, and he won. His
By the way, the Vogue is gonna say that false allegations don't exist. Even though not a single person watching this believes that, because we have seen false allegations, miles of it. Because behind every successful man, there's a woman who thinks she can do this shit.
accusers settled with him. They retracted their allegations. Avallone was awarded a 7-figure payout. His accusers even endorsed his return to the games industry. Avallone, with credits linked to
I'm pretty sure none of that mattered. He was still completely done.
Fallout New Vegas,
By the way, this is why if someone gets falsely accused, you should demand like a fucking billion in reprehension. No, that's not the right word. $1 billion in lawsuits. Let's just say it like that. Because, I mean, the reality of this stuff is, even when you prove yourself 100% innocent, you're still fucked. Your career is still over.
KOTOR 2, Prey, Alpha Protocol, Fallout 2, and among many other games, has since been ghosted by this industry. He hasn't gotten another job in the video game industry, and that's going to be the same case with Jeremy Soule. But this is what PC Gamer writes. They bring up rightfully that it's been at least 15 years since I last touched Oblivion, but a few seconds of the triumphant theme Reign of the Septums brings me right back to the menu screen. I saw so many times on my Xbox 360, the gentler, almost aching Harvest Dawn conjures the quieter moments I spent wandering around the Imperial City picking locks and pockets. Those are good memories. But today, I have a different association with Oblivion's music, the 2019 allegations of, well, some serious misconduct that were made against composer Jeremy Soule, who wrote the music for Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, and many other games, including KOTOR, Guild Wars. He just has an impressive resume. The problem I have with these allegations that were made in 2019, they were never tried in a court of law. There was never any sort of investigation. It was just he said, she said. There was never any evidence produced. And one of the there was 2 accusations in total. One was an actual forcible act that was levied against Soule. That one is one we'll talk about in a second. The other was an individual who admitted that they were flirting with Soule, and things ended up leaning inappropriately. They tried to stop things, and Soule ended up sending a video supposedly that was very inappropriate, and
Bam, based.
That's that. We never heard anything else from the situation. Again, no investigation, no nothing. But we did get statements from Soule. Soule came out and said that he was...
Listen, sending an inappropriate video always seems like the fun choice because it is. Wink, wink. But yeah, women don't like that, okay? It's almost never the right choice. It is what it is. But it is the fun choice.
Was disgusted by these accusations and pretty much denied all wrongdoing. And then he just went completely dark.
But listen, just be smart about it, okay? Don't include your face in there. Don't include something where it's distinguishably recognizable that it's your house or something like that. Okay. Pro tips. Pro tips. My stuff is, well, it's probably somewhere on the internet, but good luck finding it. Okay.
He just has dropped off the face of the planet. As I said before, there were two claims made against Soule. One was more so for inappropriate behavior and a, certain type of message that was unwanted. The other was in regards to actual unwanted contact, if you catch my drift. This goes back to around 2008 when that specific incident allegedly happened while working at a smaller studio.
By the way, all of this is so stupid. The concept of unwanted content when you're flirting with someone is like, okay. Do you want to live in a world where you have to be like, can I touch you? If the answer is yes, and then you need to, ask every 5 seconds, can I still keep touching you, or now your boundaries are crossed? It's like that's not a world we're gonna live in because that's just messed up. Okay, the woke losers can cry about all that all they want, but that's never gonna be the world. Okay, we're gonna do things in reason.
Studio. The accuser claims they were friends, and they stated that's all they wanted and told that to Soule. But they hung out, and eventually Soule kept trying to push their friendship into something more. Supposedly,
10% of Khajiits.
the accuser felt that they had to go along with it in fear of losing their job, and they were afraid of rejecting him. And then the incident happened, which Soule fully denies, along with the other accusation that he fully denies. YouTuber Azura did a full deep dive into all of Soule's past, including everything that happened with these situations and everything beforehand. I highly recommend checking it out if this is all new news to you. Now, what I'm trying to really say here is that,
bro, you just clicked on that video because of the clearly visible septum piercing. It is what it is.
News to you. Now, what I'm trying to really say here is that these are accusations. There is nothing, I don't know what happened. I don't know if Soule's guilty or not. I just know that there's no investigation, and I'm just very much against ruining a person's life based on this stuff, especially when it's not tried in a court of law. And I understand all this stuff. These accusations also go back like 11 or 12 years, and I just have a very hard time thinking about ruining somebody's life off of all of this. And ultimately, that is what has happened, because Soule has not worked with Bethesda since then. He already kind of had a rocky relationship. It seems like something may have happened around 2016, 2017, but we can all presume that he's not going to be working on the Elder Scrolls 6, especially because of everything that happened here. And he has dropped off the face of the earth. He took all of his websites and everything off, and then one of the accusers used this against him, saying that if he was, actually innocent, he wouldn't be doing this. It's striking, they pretty much said at the time, and I just find that completely absurd, because I think the counter is the man was extremely disappointed and knew it was over for him. And look, maybe he did all this stuff. I just don't know. And I just hate the fact that you have this PC Gamer article in which they still have articles up for all the accusations that were made against Chris Avellone, and people still use that against him to this day. That's why I just find this framing, going after the Oblivion Remaster over something that was never confirmed, we don't know, there was no investigation. I just find it absolutely so fucking disgusting that PC Gamer thought it was appropriate to do this, and they knew there was going to be backlash, and I almost feel like that was the point of this article. But it does continue. It says, before Bethesda announced Oblivion Remastered, there was speculation over whether the developer would remix or even fully replace Soule's music. I did not see any conversation about that. Maybe there was.
Yeah. Completely. If that's real, I also completely missed that. I think everyone missed that if that was real.
I don't know, but I never saw any articles or anything about that.
There are times when you can separate the art from the artist in case something bad happens. And I mean, this would definitely be the case, okay? I honestly don't understand. Like, this is a little bit too minor for warranting the complete rewriting of history.
Or even fully replace Soule's music as a result of the allegations against him, or due to a conflict with Bethesda over Soule being left out of a Skyrim concert in 2016. And that was, I think, the first incident in which things really soured between Bethesda before the misconduct stuff. People have theorized that Bethesda had to have already known about all this stuff that happened 11 or 12 years ago that didn't even happen when he worked at Bethesda, but I don't think so. I think that the relationship turned rocky, and this is actually the specific instance.
I mean, I think both people are just insane.
Incident that people bring up and
Mentally ill, even.
which he was outraged at the time that there was going to be a Skyrim concert, and yeah, he voiced his displeasure on social media in a bunch of viral posts, and I'm sure Bethesda did not like that. But like you said, their relationship already was rocky, and if there was ever a chance for the Elder Scrolls 6, he was going to be part of that. It's never going to happen. PC Gamer then says, but we now know neither happened. The soundtrack is unchanged just as we remember it, and that's how it should be. It really should. Even if everything ended up being true, that is Oblivion. This is Oblivion. There's so many problematic people in this industry, so many problematic, products that we consume to this day, whether the Nike shirts or the brand name stuff and the child factory.
Hey, keep the slave labor out of this. I personally love my stuff even more if I know it's made from quality slave labor, okay? The rarer the slave labor, the more good I feel about using an item. Okay? I don't care about your iPhone phones and shit like that. That, that's just cheap ass slave labor in the cobalt mines. That's boring, okay? I want exotic slave labor. That's what I want. I want something that I know there was a price to pay. Oh, black lung. No, shut the fuck up. That's not special. Okay? I I I need something better, okay? I need the next level of slave created products. Shit, I want them to be making that shit in China while they're in the goddamn nets. Okay? That's the real stuff that we're after nowadays.
Factories in fucking China and Vietnam. I don't want to hear this virtue signaling. Same thing with your iPhones and everything. And I understand people hate those comparisons, but guess what? That is very much the same thing that is happening here with problematic individuals and stuff. It's just easier to ignore because this isn't like, I guess you could say, entertainment and stuff. The logic here is so dumbfounding in my opinion. Now, it does mention that Soule denied the allegations in 2019, kind of
I'm just waiting until the woke people start saying Goblin lives matter.
fucking important, but I guess they don't care about the denial.
Why do Goblin lives matter? I don't know, because they're probably in the self-insert for blacks or Mexicans or whatever. I mean, orcs are literally Mexicans nowadays in D&D. That's a 10 out of 10, by the way. So, whatever lives matter, it could be me, like the freerun conversation with the demons, how the leftists started going, oh, she kills demons? That could be me. Good.
And the fact that no
It should be.
investigations were ever conducted. In the years since, he's almost completely vanished from the internet, scrubbing official sites and social media profiles, and he seemingly hasn't composed a new soundtrack since 2019. And like I said, I don't know if Soule is, innocent in all of this. I also don't know if he's guilty. I just know that he also does have some other stuff in his past in which he's been accused of scamming people through Kickstarter. He raised like $100,000 for a project and then completely vanished off the earth, especially when all these allegations
LOL, literally, Grumps. Who honestly cares, right?
emerged, and a lot of people were upset about that. They were like, where's my money, where's the product that you promised? And he never delivered that. There was also some other stuff in his past in which he was accused of scamming people, but again, that's very different than the misconduct stuff that happened in 2019. Again, I really don't like the framing that PC Gamer is going after Oblivion Remastered because of, well, what Jeremy Soule may or may not have ever done. But PC Gamer goes on to mention, even before 2019, composer Inan Zur has taken the reins as the primary composer for Bethesda's RPGs, working on the ESO, Fallout 4, and Starfield over the last decade. I also believe Soule never worked on like Fallout 3 and such, so I don't think that was ever relevant or anything. But again, Elder Scrolls 6, that's out of the question at this point.
I mean, Elder Scrolls 6 by itself is out of the question at this point, honestly. Anyway, that was Legacy Kill HD, 10 out of 10. Bye!